Hello and welcome to Talk of the Bay for today, October 7th. I'm your host, George Cadman, and on today's show, I'll be speaking with Elaine Johnson, Executive Director of Housing Santa Cruz County, about Measure C. She's the leader of the campaign to pass Measure C. This will be a call-in show, so if you have questions about Measure C, or you oppose it, or you support it, or you have comments, questions, whatever, you can call in, and I'll be putting that number out in probably about 15 or 20 minutes. And now I'm joined on the phone by Elaine Johnson. She's a proud native of the Bronx, grew up immersed in a tight-knit community that fueled her passion for advocacy and collaboration. From a young age, she experienced firsthand the power of coming together to create positive change, a foundation that continues to drive her work today. Elaine holds a bachelor's degree in political science and a Juris Doctorate from Monterey College of Law. She brings a wealth of expertise in restorative justice and conflict resolution, housing equity and economic empowerment, community outreach engagement, and community advocacy and social justice. Her extensive experience in building collaborative initiatives and fostering dialogue has positioned her as a leader in driving community-centered solutions. She's now serving as the Executive Director of Housing Santa Cruz County, HSCC, and the leader of Measure C. Elaine is at the forefront of advocating for affordable housing, working tirelessly to ensure that housing justice and equity are realized for all. And her leadership extends beyond HSCC. She serves on several local boards, including Encompass Community Services, Community Action Board, and Monarch Services. And she serves as the president of the NAACP Santa Cruz County branch. When she's not championing housing justice, she enjoys watching football, singing, and spending time with her wife, Shania, in Santa Cruz, California, where they reside. Hello, Elaine. Thank you so much for joining me on Talk of the Bay today to talk about Measure C.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So glad you could make the time. I know you're very busy. So let's start out with what is Measure C? Dumb question, but I think there's a lot of people who don't know. And if you could give us the background on how it came into being, who was involved, who wrote it, how it ended up on the ballot, that kind of thing.
Sure. So I'll take us back about a little over 2 years ago. There was community members, which consisted about between 60 and 80 of us, who gathered around the table and was talking about what can we do to continue to bring more funding into the city of Santa Cruz. And so after many discussions, bringing the community in, having community meetings, making sure that their voices was heard, their ideas and thoughts was heard, we came up with Measure C. And what Measure C is, it's an affordable housing, it's a workforce affordable housing tax measure, which would allow for additional funding to come into the community, which will then land in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And we can talk a little bit more about that later.
You say it's a tax increase?
So what it is, it's a parcel tax and a real estate transfer tax. The parcel tax is $96 a year, which comes to $8 a month. And the real estate transfer tax is any sale over $1.8 million. It's a tiered type of model. So, for example, if you sell your home for $2 million, it'll be a $1,000 tax.
I see.
So it's, yes.
And so my understanding is that would expire after 20 years. Is that correct? This is a parcel exactly tax and a transfer tax, but it would expire after 20 years if voters pass it?
That's exactly right. It's sunset. It doesn't go on and on forever.
Okay, so it's the parcel tax or property tax, right? It's the same thing, property tax, as a parcel tax?
The parcel tax, anyone who owns a home in Santa Cruz and that's not exempt from this, which seniors are exempt, some low-income people are exempt, it would be $96 a year, but it comes to $8 a month.
Okay, so that's the same thing as property tax, right? Just for people okay. Yes.
Yes, that is correct.
And so there's two taxes here. There's a $8 a month or $96 a year increase in property taxes for people who are not exempt. And as you said, low income folks are exempt, senior citizens are exempt, and I think there's some other exemptions as well. And then there's the transfer tax, which
Yes.
would be tiered, as you said, depending upon how much the home is sold for. And as you said, a $2 million home would be a $1,000 transfer tax. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. So how do folks who are considering voting on this measure, how can they be assured that if this passes and the partial tax of $96 a year, $8 a month, and the transfer tax, the tiered transfer tax we just mentioned, how can they be certain that that money would be spent on affordable housing? Because it goes into the city budget, right? It goes into...
No, it goes into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Very different.
Okay, can you explain that?
Yes, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund is a fund that is set up for where this money will go into, and it has an oversight committee, and it's been in place for a little over 20 years, so it's not something new, and for the last 20 years, it's had a clean track record. You know, there is oversight of 3 people who make sure that any decisions that the City Council make is in alignment with what is agreed upon in the text of our measure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's nothing new. It's already in place. Right now, it's pretty low on funds, and we need to fill it back up so that we can keep our community healthy.
So, what would you say to there are, public figures in Santa Cruz who are opposing Measure C, including Hector Marin, an educator who ran for city council a few years ago, and Simonton, former chair of prevention of violence against women, among others. They argue that Measure C would create a massive new tax on Santa Cruz homeowners, renters, and families without delivering real housing solutions. They say that Santa Cruz needs more affordable housing, but this measure doesn't guarantee lower costs or new homes and would only raise the cost of living. What is your response to that argument?
Well, first off, the renters will not be burdened by this.
Unless the homeowner passes on the tax to the renter.
But the homeowner can't pass that on, and it's in our tax.
How can you prevent them from passing it on to the renter? Or how can that be prevented?
Well, I mean, hopefully with the honest system. But if you look at it in the bird's eye view, it's $8 a month. But I don't think a renter is going to pass on $8 to one of their tenants.
Probably not. But they could use it as an excuse. But that's kind of on them.
Probably not, right?
Yeah.
And again, there's an oversight committee that will be looking. We don't put this 27-page text together just to put it together. What's in this text is what needs to happen in the measure. And I feel comfortable. I would not have stepped into this if I didn't feel comfortable and if I didn't trust that the money is going to be used for what it says it's going to be used. And there has never been any indication that it hasn't been used for what it was said it was going to be used. So I don't think that's going to change now, to be honest with you.
Okay, another one of the arguments made by people who oppose Measure C is that it's crafted by political insiders, but yet it's presented as a citizens' initiative. What is your response to that claim?
There was 60 to 80 of us at the table. Everybody's voices is in this 27 pages.
Okay.
Right? Yes. There wasn't one or two people that put this together. There was many of us that put this together. Like I said, literally 2 years, countless meetings, even community meetings. We took down all the feedback the community gave us because this is for our community. And so, no, there was no backdoor dealings, none of that kind of stuff. This was very upfront, very transparent with the community's buy-in.
So they also say that nearly $100 million could flow into City Hall with no clear plan, earmark, or safeguards. Without strong accountability, oversight, or measurable goals, there's no guarantee the money would reach those who need it most. Can you respond to that claim?
Yeah, again, that's not true. That's that oversight committee. It'd be one thing if this oversight committee, quote unquote, just got created. That's not what the case is. The oversight committee has been put in place for over 20 years. I actually met someone when I was at a forum who told me she was part of putting the Affordable Housing Trust Fund together. So I trust it. Why would it not work for us now? I mean, it's been working for the last 20 years. Mm-hmm. I mean, I trust it.
Mm-hmm. So another claim that they make is that costly lawsuits are likely to result if it passes, delaying real housing progress. Do you have a response to that claim?
Well, I hope nobody sues us. I'm not even sure why they would. It's what's concerning to me and actually disappointing to me is at the end of the day, I don't do this for me. I do this for my community, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure that my friends, my teacher, my best friend who's a teacher, colleagues, neighbors, that they don't lose their homes,
Mm-hmm.
right? That they get to stay in their homes, that our young adults that want to start a family here don't have to move across the country or wherever so they can raise a family here. You know,
I can't afford to live in this town. I'm basically homeless.
Oh, I'm
so
sorry.
I can relate.
Yeah, it's hard. So
I mean, I've lived here for over 30 years, and I don't
Yeah.
currently have actually a place to live.
But this is why we do this. This is not being put in place to harm anybody. If it's anything, it's for the health and well-being of the community. Everybody wins.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just a little disheartening at times where, you know, there's these stories, there's these narratives that what the money's going to be used for is not going to be used for. That's not what we do here. That's not what Elaine does here. I don't sign on to that kind of stuff, and that's not what we have in Measure C at all.
Okay, I want to talk about where the money would go if this passes. I'm looking at the text of the initiative. Well, part of the text, it says that if passed, these two new special taxes, the parcel tax again, that's on the property tax, and that would be $96 a year or $8 a month to the property owner. The real property transfer tax, that would be, as you said, tiered depending on how much the house sold for. So as you gave an example of a $2 million sale, would be $1,000 in tax. This would be 20 years, and then it would expire. The use of the revenue, talk about how that breaks down. So 87% for affordable housing, 10% for programs and facilities, and 3% for community oversight. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes. So some of the funds will go for permanent affordable rental homes. Some of the funds will go for some wraparound services for our unhoused community. Some of the funds will go for eviction prevention. I mean, we all know somebody, you know, that's one paycheck away from, you know, being homeless or, you know, as I was sharing with a colleague last night, I don't know. I mean, if all of us was honest with each other, how many of us had to say to our landlord, you know what, I'm short this month because they wanted to get something to eat, right? 15 years ago, that was me, right? It was like, Louise, rest her soul, money's tight right now. Could you wait a couple of weeks for me to pay the rent so that I can get something to eat? This will prevent that. This will prevent people from not being able to pay the rent so they can, you know, reach in and get a stipend. Right? It'll make more housing for lower income workers. You know, there's a whole wealth of things that, you know, housing vouchers. There's a whole wealth of things that this funding will do, and has for years.
And you say it would go into a affordable housing trust fund that already exists.
That is correct.
And there would be talk to me about the oversight committee that you mentioned that would deal with, you know, it being accountable. That it was being spent on affordable housing.
Yeah, so it consists of, it's my understanding, 3 people, and they would take the direction of the city council. You know, the city council just can't go in there and say, spend this, this, and this. You know, there are 3 people that will have to approve of the request that's being asked of this funding. And so I feel very comfortable with that. And again, like I said, George, this has been going on for over 20 years with not one hiccup. I don't see why it would be an issue today.
And again, 10%. So 87% would go into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund spent directly on affordable housing, the construction of it?
Well, some of it, could be to help with, assist with construction. Because what we see sometimes is a project is being developed. You know, a developer may, you know, say run short on $30,000. Do we give up 100 homes because someone's short $30,000 so the funds will help with that as well.
Okay, and then 10% to programs and facilities to address and prevent homelessness. Can you talk a little bit about precisely what that means?
Yeah, so, you know, it's the eviction protection. You know, if someone's unhoused and needs some wraparound services in between trying to, you know, going from unhoused to being getting a home. they'd be able to use some of those funds to help them get across, quote unquote, the finish line, for lack of a better word. There's a list of things. It's 27 pages in the text.
Okay.
But it's those sorts of things.
People can read that text, correct? They can go to Yes on Measure C. What's the website where they can read that text?
Well, they can go to the campaign website, but it's also on the City of Santa Cruz website.
Okay. But to go to your website, it's yesonsantacruz.org. Yesonsantacruz.org. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Yesonsantacruz.org. So you can read the initiative text there, but as Elaine mentioned, you can also read it through a city website. You can read arguments.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I also encourage people to, if they go to the city website, read up on the Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
Okay.
It's all spelled out there as well. Because I think it's important for people, to really understand, what's in place, so that, they can feel more comfortable and trust trust in the process.
Mm-hmm.
At some point we got to trust in the process, right? At some point I call it get out of our own way and allow things to work so that we can build on this already amazing community.
And this would generate $100 million if passed for affordable housing, correct?
Over 20 years, about $5 million a year for 20 years.
Okay, and then the tax would expire at the end of 20 years.
Yep, it's sunset. That is correct.
Okay, and again, if you're just tuning in, I'm speaking with Elaine Johnson, one of the leaders of Measure C, and that's going to be on the ballot in November. And it's a city measure that would increase property taxes by $8 a month for homeowners or $96 a year over the course of 20 years when it would then expire. And there are some exemptions for senior citizens and low-income households. And then there's the transfer tax that, again, as Elaine has mentioned, would be levied on the value of property transferred or sold in excess of $1.8 million. So anything under $1.8 million, it would not apply to. Is that right?
That is correct.
And that is a tiered tax. So if the property, as Elaine mentioned, sold for $2 million, it would be $1,000. So a 0.5% tax on anything. So a 0.5% tax on something around 1.8 million, but less than 2.5. Is that right? Okay, and then a 1% tax on things in excess of 2.5 million, and so on.
That's right.
So I understand there's some exemptions on the transfer tax. Is that right? It says here a variety of real property transactions would be exempt, including but not limited to public agency to a nonprofit corporation, restricted affordable units, etc.
Inheritance, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about Measure B, because Measure B was brought forth by the Realtors Association. Is that right?
Yeah, the California Association of Realtors, yeah.
Okay, and they put this forward and they're funding it as, it almost seems like a way to kind of muddy the water, or what is your take on Measure B? What is it, and what is your take on it?
Yeah, I really can't, I didn't create it, right? So, but what I can say is, they showed up in the middle of the game, when we were collecting signatures and confused the voters. And so, because, ours was Workforce Housing Affordability Act and theirs was Workforce Housing, Climate Act, and people were getting confused by it. And I believe, one can only assume, that, they were trying to confuse the voters because the voters got confused.
Yeah, well, my understanding is it would raise a lot less money if passed. Significantly less, and it wouldn't just go to building affordable housing, it would go to rebuilding the wharf, among other things. Is that right?
Well, that's what they have in there. Again, I didn't write it. That's what they have in text, but it's my understanding that fund is already available for the wharf. It's not my understanding that you can have funding for the wharf and then funding for affordable housing and a tax measure. But I just encourage people to read up on that.
Well,
but,
on the website, yes on C, santacruz.org, they talk about Measure B. And one of the things it says is Measure B is a deceptive ballot measure funded by statewide corporate real estate interests with deep pockets Measure B was deliberately designed to confuse and deceive voters and undermine Measure C, and that they even admit it when interviewed. And there's a quote from Santa Cruz Lookout that says Renee Mello, who's the president of the local association of realtors, said the mission of their ballot Measure B is to defeat the Workforce Housing and Affordability Act by closely mirroring the language and proposals put forth by housing advocates, but raising far less money and not going just to affordable housing. And the statewide and National Association of Realtors organization, a moneyed group known to be one of the most powerful lobbies in California, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in local Santa Cruz elections in 2018 and 2022 to defeat similar ballot measures. And they put out a website, workforcehousingnow.net/news, to read this for yourself. So I want to remind listeners that this is Talk of the Bay, and I am speaking with Elaine Johnson. She's Executive Director of Housing Santa Cruz County and the leader of the campaign to pass Measure C. I did mention this would be a call-in show, so I want to extend that to you now. 831-900-5773 is the number to call if you have a question, a comment for my guest, Elaine Johnson, if you would like to ask her a question or if you want to make a comment and get her response. So let's just return to the Measure C website here. Again, yes on santacruz.org. What kind of support does this have? I'm looking at some of the endorsements. I'm seeing John Laird, a state senator, Gail Pellerin, an assembly member, Bill Monning, Justin Cummings, Manu Koenig, et cetera, et cetera. Fred Keeley, of course, who's been involved in this campaign. Do you want to talk about the coalition that is supporting this, including some of the organizations?
Yes. Yeah, and I am pleased to say the backing that we have of this measure, again, because it's about the community, right? It's about employees, it's about families, about the students, it's about the kids, about the teachers. And so everyone is touched by this. So yeah, having Santa Cruz Community Health, the County Office of Education, Peace United Church,
mailed in $100.
Did. Oh, sorry. Something happened, Howard. Are you there, Elaine?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just suddenly couldn't hear you. I apologize. Do we have a caller? Sorry. Okay, we have a call, Elaine. Hello, you're on the air with Elaine Johnson and myself, George Cadman. You have a question or comment, listener?
Yes, as a Santa Cruz resident and a senior citizen, I understood that if we're low income, I've been here since 72, but I still have a mortgage, and I'm scratching by, but I wonder, I'm very curious to know, because I haven't received anything in print from the city about what are these exemptions that would include seniors so they won't jack up. It's getting hard to scratch by nowadays, and I'm worried about, I think I want C, but I don't know that I can afford just one more thing, making it harder to get by.
Okay, let's get Elaine's response and then open up the phone lines if you don't mind. Thank you so much for your call, listener. Appreciate it. Elaine, can you respond to that?
Yes, so some of the exemptions, and it sounds like, in your situation, a one-person household would need to make less than $56,000 a year to qualify for an exemption. A family of four would qualify if they made less than $80,000. A senior household of one would need to make less than $74,000, and a couple $85,000 a year. So if you fall within that bracket there, you would qualify as an exemption.
So if you're making over $74,000 a year, you can likely afford $8 a month, in my view. Anyway, we only have a few minutes left in the program. If you have a question or a comment for my guest, Elaine Johnson, who again is the Executive Director of Housing of Santa Cruz County and the leader of the campaign to pass Measure C, call in at 831-900-5773 in the next few minutes. That's 831-900-5773. So I want to, because we only have a few minutes left, I do want to remind folks to go to yesonsantacruz.org if you want to see some of the background on this, if you want to read the actual initiative itself, there's a lot of information there. They talk about Measure B. There's a frequently asked questions section that addresses questions such as, will this raise my rent? Who will benefit from Measure C? Who's behind it? Are there exemptions? Will it actually work? There's lots of frequently asked questions there at yesonsantacruz.org. But in the last few minutes, Elaine, I want to give you the opportunity to put anything out that you have not yet addressed or encapsulate your argument in the last few moments in favor of Measure C.
You know, I want to invite our community to move from a place of fear to faith, right? We have to build homes for our community. Right? We just have to. Everybody, and I truly believe this in my heart of hearts. I'm not reading it from some spiritual book or something. I believe in my heart of hearts, everyone deserves a place to call home. Everyone. Regardless of your background, your race, whatever. I truly believe that. And so I want to invite the community to join us in doing this work to support our community. I know it works. Where I come from in New York, it works. It worked for decades. And so I bring that same energy here. Join us. Vote yes on Measure C because you're doing it to support your community, your neighbor, your friend, your colleagues, the person at Trader Joe's. You know, think about it in with that lens and let go of the lens that something is being wrong when it's not wrong. Thank you for the opportunity to let me be here tonight.
Thank you so much, Elaine Johnson, for joining me today on Talk of the Bay. Oh, we have a call. Do we have time for one? No. Do we? Oh, okay. I'll just, I don't know if I... Are you there, Elaine?
Yes.
We have a caller. Let's see if we can pop him on. Hello, caller?
Hey, hello.
Do you have a comment for my guest?
Yes, the comment that I'm going to go from is everybody deserves a right to have a house or deserves some place to live. But in Santa Cruz, it's such a beautiful place, and there's a capacity to this place. And so if you are not able to live here by finances, well, then move someplace else.
That's it? Okay, thank you so much for your call. Do you have a response to that, Elaine? Elaine?
Yeah, I mean, that's everybody's personal choice. I mean, if they stay, they stay. If they don't, they don't. But what can we do to help people stay?
My response to that would be there are folks in this community picking our food, growing our food, cleaning bathrooms, serving food, cooking food, cleaning hotel rooms, taking care of people's animals like myself. And we can't afford to live here. So where do you want us to live? Do you just want this to be a community for rich people? And then what? You're going to clean your own toilets, pick your own food, grow your own food, cook, you're going to be the chef at the restaurant. You're going to be the waitress bringing the food to your table. You're going to do everything. Where do you want people to live? And Watsonville isn't a whole lot cheaper, okay? And then we've got the highway, the traffic going back and forth. Folks that are coming from Watsonville and going back, it's locked down. And frankly, the freeway widening probably isn't going to do a whole heck of a lot for that. So, you can say just move away if you can't afford to live here, but where are the people who grow your food, serve it, clean the bathrooms, clean the office buildings, serve you at Trader Joe's, etc.? Where are they to live? Are we to live in where? There's nowhere in this immediate vicinity that we can afford to live. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Okay?
Yeah.
Anyway, Thank you again, Elaine. Sorry, I just went off, but I have strong emotions about this because I'm directly affected by it. And I know a lot of people who are, because I'm not rich and I don't have rich friends. Anyway, thank you so much, Elaine Johnson. Really appreciate you joining me on Talk of the Bay today.
Oh, thank you for having me. You have a great evening.
You too. Thank you. And I do want to thank all the listeners today and the donors to our station and to this community radio station. And also I want to thank the two callers. I appreciate hearing people who don't agree. It's very important for us to hear from people who don't agree with, what is being presented, because this is a conversation, and I know we all have strong feelings, and I appreciate people being willing to call in and say things that maybe aren't terribly popular, frankly. I mean, telling people that they should move away if they can't afford to live here is probably not a really popular view among a significant segment of the population. But I do appreciate hearing that view. It's if you hold that view, I thank you for calling in with that. So I want to remind folks that Elaine Johnson is one of the leaders of Yes on Sea, and their website is yesonsantacruz.org. Again, you can look at the initiative text there. You can look at frequently asked questions. You can see arguments in favor of Measure C and against B. And I'm sure there's a No on B website out there. I'm sorry I don't have it at my fingertips, but it wouldn't be hard to do a browser search for that. And as Elaine mentioned, you can also see the initiative text at the city's website. I'm not sure exactly where, but it's there. And also information about the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. She mentioned that is also on the city's website. Thank you for listening to Talk of the Bay. I'm George Cadman, your host.